Talk about someone who understands history, hailing from Alabama, was the prosecutor in the case. The interview, the book is called Bending Towards Justice, the Birmingham church bombing that changed the course of civil rights. U.S. Senator Doug Jones. Now, remember, we did the interview. Y'all, he was crazy. We thought the interview was lost. No, actually, when we did the interview, it was not labeled. So when I was looking for the Richard Smallwood interview, Richard Smallwood, of course, who passed away, actually found the Doug Jones interview first, and then I found the Richard Smallwood interview right after that. And so this week, we're going to be running the interview I did with Doug Jones in our first studio about that particular book. It's a conversation y'all don't want to miss. But he joins us right now, not to talk about his book, but to talk about running for governor of Alabama. He announced that he is running. You have Senator Tommy Tuberville. I have no problem saying it. It's truly one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life in the United States Senate. He's running for governor, an absolute embarrassment. And so pull it up. These are the four folks who are also running: Doug Jones, Will Boyd, Jamel Brown, and Chad Martin, those who have announced. Doug, the thing here, here's what I find to be very interesting. Tommy Tuberville, people are like, oh, hey, he's pretty much guaranteed to win. And I just, listen, I get he was a coach at Auburn, but for the life of me, I'm like, surely Alabama, you know you cannot put that man in the governor's mansion. And when I say somebody ain't talking about, I've just never seen somebody who says the stuff that he says, and you just go, I know there has to be something in that head.
You know, Roland, look, first of all, my friend, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me on again. It's been a while. I really appreciate it. And, look, I think Alabama today is a lot different Alabama than it was a few years ago when he got elected in a Trump election year, in which he hid behind COVID. They hid him away. He hid in his home in Florida, which I think he still lives in, by the way. I still don't think he's a resident of Alabama, but that's a whole different story. And the fact of the matter is they can't hide him this time. He's got a record. He's going to have to get out there. He's going to have to defend a record that I think is indefensible. He's not done anything for the people of Alabama. He's not just been a Trump acolyte. He's been a trumpeter for Donald Trump and everything he's done. Every divisive concept that he's got, Tommy Tuberville has been right there. So we are going to use this election and talk to people and listen to people and understand that folks in Alabama are hurting, just like everywhere else in the country, and they need their health care, they need their education, they need to have good jobs and good paying jobs. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're not going to be talking about how to divide people the way that Tommy Tuberville does. We're going to talk about bringing people together the way you and I have talked before, the way I think I've conducted myself in the Senate and since I've left the Senate.
There, I mean, perfect example. This guy was going on and on and on about how people have stolen and these folk who are getting welfare, all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, do you understand the amount of federal benefits, especially with health care, that come to Alabama? I mean, he was sitting here thought he was trashing undocumented workers. He was trashing folks in Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely correct. We're one of the poorest states in the country. We have a lot of people on Medicaid. We have a lot of people on SNAP, and they're hardworking people. It's not just folks that don't have jobs and not looking for jobs. There are so many people on Medicaid right now that have jobs. They just can't afford to do anything else, and that is there. And we've got a real restrictive Medicaid, and they're losing what health care that they have. The people that can afford it are about to lose a lot more. Folks on SNAP were really hurting. You know, he attacked folks on SNAP, and we've got one of the highest we've got one of the highest populations of active duty military that are also on SNAP. And he was attacking those folks as well. He does talking points, Roland. He doesn't do his homework. He doesn't know the facts. He sure as hell doesn't know history. And he just does the talking points that he sees coming out of the White House, and they don't always apply here in Alabama. And we're going to make sure folks know that and understand who he is now, because I don't think they fully understood or appreciated it in 2020 when he got elected to the U.S. Senate.
Y'all have faced each other. I keep this here on my iPad, and this is, and y'all, this, I don't need everybody to understand. This actually happened. This was October 2020. I need y'all to understand. This is literally Tommy Tuberville, who currently is a United States Senator from Alabama, talking about voting rights from the place that is the cradle of civil rights. When we talk about voting rights in America for black folks, we're talking Selma, we're talking Montgomery, we're talking Birmingham, we're talking Mobile, we're talking about Alabama, and this is Tommy Tuberville, y'all. This was from almost 6 years ago. Listen.
The thing about the Voting Rights Act is, it's, there's a lot of different things you can look at it as. Who's it going to help? What direction do we need to go with it? I think it's important that with everything we do, we keep secure. We keep an eye on it. It's run by our government, and it's run to the point that it's got structure to it. It's like education. I mean, it's got to have structure. Now, for some reason, we look at things to change, to think we're going to make it better, but we'd better do a lot of work on it before we make that change. The thing about the Voting Rights Act is
I clearly education didn't take hold for somebody.
Clearly, if there is one person in the entire Congress that does not need to abolish the Department of Education, it is Senator Tuberville. And that's right. I've still got that on my phone as well, Roland. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And remember, just a month after that, he didn't know what the three branches of government were right after he got elected. I mean, look, what's really, I think, for us, we are going to focus on exactly what got me elected in 2017. And that's a focus on kitchen table issues. People's health care is still a big deal in Alabama with all of the people that are uninsured and underinsured. Education is still a point. And we've got to work on our workforce development. I know the governor and others currently are trying to do some things with workforce development, but we got to do more. Alabama's workforce, we have the lowest participation rate in our workforce as any state in the country, save Mississippi and West Virginia. When you get more people in the workforce, you bring up the economy. And those rural areas that need that economy, we got to get those folks working. We got to get rural hospitals back open. And those are the kind of things we're going to be talking about while he's running around trying to figure out what the Voting Rights Act is.
Before I go to my panel for questions, this is just the most difficult thing. How do you get through to people who are hardcore Republicans, who vote R regardless, who love Donald Trump and will do whatever this man says? How do you convince them to stop voting against their interest? How? How do you get the Democrats in the state to really organize and mobilize and maximize black turnout, not just in the primary, but also in the general election? Because, this is like you have to damn near run, you or the other candidates running for the Democratic nomination for governor have to damn near run an almost perfect campaign to win, because that's how red and Republican and conservative Alabama is.
Well, Roland, let's go through a couple of things for you. First of all, we're read by the numbers of winning and losing. I get that. But if you drill down on the numbers a little bit, there's a lot of folks that have voted Democrat in this state before, and they're going to vote that way again. We won in 2017. Nobody thought we could do it. We won. You've got numbers. I got more votes than any Democrat in history got in a losing campaign in 2020, and we're going to go back. We believe we can identify those folks, and we're going to be working at a precinct by precinct level to try to get those votes back out. Second thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be working with other candidates. In Alabama, Democrats have been so fractured over the years, especially in the last 20 or 30 years. They haven't run together. They haven't talked to each other. They've run separate campaigns. We got folks now who are energized and excited to build an entire ticket. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going after voters that are low propensity voters. We're going to be going after the voters that we believe persuadable, those hardcore Republican voters that look, it's their prerogative to vote hardcore Republican. I don't think there are as many as people think. And one of the problems that we've got, and we're going to try to address this as best we can, one of the problems is Alabama is one of only 5 states left that allow straight ticket voting. That means you check one box, you vote for everybody in that party. I don't like that system. I've never liked that system. We're going to start going after that system. It is a rigged system. That is exactly what this is. The folks in Montgomery, Alabama, the state capital, and all the big mules down there, they want to keep that system rigged so that they can control who the candidates are. To show you an example of that and how bad it is down here, special interest groups in Alabama over the last 6 months have started endorsing candidates. Now, you may not think that that's a problem, but the fact of the matter is we didn't even start qualifying candidates to run in each party until about 2 weeks ago. They've been endorsing candidates to try to intimidate people to control the candidates and therefore rig the election. So we're going to try to break the cycle of straight ticket voting. I think a bill's going to probably get introduced. It won't pass, but we're going to lay down a marker right now and educate people about that. Well, and the second thing, and the last thing we're going to do real quick, we are going to go into those areas. I am not going to be afraid to go in and talk to those folks in rural areas and the folks that have traditionally voted Republican. I think more people are conditioned to vote that way, that they're supposed to vote that way. And once they start seeing the choices that they've got this year, they're going to have second thoughts.
Well, it's interesting you said about straight ticket voting because the Republicans in Texas got rid of straight ticket voting because they were so mad that Democrats were winning Harris County, Dallas County, Bexar County, Travis County. And they's like, no, we got to get rid of this. All right, questions from my panel. Joe, you first for Doug Jones.
Senator Jones, it's an honor to be on with you. Thank you for helping us bend toward justice. You have absolutely done your part. Between what you've said and what Roland has asked, you guys kind of took up what I was going to ask. But let me ask you this, Senator. What do you hope in this campaign to reveal to Alabama about itself? So that they can rise up, find their identity, grab it, and say, we need to go in another direction?
Beautiful question, Joe, and it is so appropriate for the way we're framing this entire campaign. You know, Alabama, despite its history of divisiveness, Alabama is a community. Alabama folks take care of each other in times of need, whether it's a tragedy, whether it's the loss of a loved one. We're really more cohesive than people think when it gets right down to it, but we've let politicians and others divide us. And so our theme, one of the themes, there's a song, and it's a song by a group of women called the Highwomen, and it's called Crowded Table. And I use that in my kickoff. I'm using it in every speech. I'm just quoting it. We can't use the whole song, hoping to get to. But for folks that are listening, it's an amazing, it's an anthem of unity and community. And it's basically, I want a house with a crowded table, where there's a place by the fire for everyone, where we can take on the world while we're young and able and come back together when the day is done. The door's always open. Your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, but everyone belongs. That's what we're going to get Alabama to recognize about itself and our community and all the glory that we have in the diversity. We are going to continue that theme regardless of how the other side attacks African Americans or Muslims or whoever they might try to divide. We're going to want that house with a crowded table.
Thank you, sir.
Melva?
Yeah, okay. So let's just be real. You got an uphill battle. And in
Yeah.
2017, your Senate win was known, I think it was called something like the Alabama Miracle, right? which is really good. How and black voters, particularly black women, here we are again, black women trying to save the world. Um, we were crucial to your past statewide success. And from what I'm seeing, we are key to any Democratic ground game in 2026. What's your play? What's your plan to get black women behind you again?
You know, I think we've got to remind folks of my role in the U.S. Senate. I think that we've got to remind them of how excited they were when they finally had a voice in the United States Senate. They damn sure don't have one up there now. And we got to remind folks about that. We got to remind folks of my record and my history of helping folks. And it's not just the church bombing. I love it when people remind everyone about what we did to bring justice for those 4 little girls that were killed in that bombing in 1963. But I want to remind people that we were the ones, that I was the one co-sponsoring legislation that got permanent funding for HBCUs, that got increased funding for HBCUs. We were the ones sponsoring legislation for maternal health care initiatives, because we in Alabama have one of the highest rates of maternal mortality and infant mortality in the country. And those rates are higher for black women and people and women of color. So we're going to remind folks about what we've done. And significantly, as Tommy Tuberville is going on at attacking various demographics, various folks in our community, whether it is Muslims or others, I want to remind folks, I want to remind them that in 2020, after the George Floyd murder, and I was going to be in a tough race in Alabama, that it was this son of the South that got on the floor of the Senate and talked about Black Lives Matter and trying to reform some criminal justice things. And we ran TV ads that way. I want people to know and understand that they will have a voice in the governor's mansion, because they have not had one in a long, long time now. And we needed that voice, just like they put me in the Senate for at least 3 years. Let's put me in the governor's mansion for 4 years, so they'll have that bully pulpit in their corner.
Mustafa.
Jones, it's good to see you again. I've spent a whole lot of time in Alabama working on environmental and public health issues over the years. You can correct my numbers here if I say them incorrectly, but I think Alabama's about 16%, has a poverty rate of about 16%. For the black community, I believe it's about 25%. And if we go down to some of the places that I've spent a lot of time, like in Perry County, you may have 60% of, young people, children, who are dealing with poverty. So I'm going to give you 2 different ways to answer this. You can either talk about how Alabama has gotten to this positioning with poverty, or what is your vision for folks in Perry County and in other places to be able to move forward?
It's a complicated questions, and you can talk about both of them. We've got to this point because the state of Alabama has not invested in those counties. They've neglected them. Everybody talks about how great Birmingham does, how great Huntsville does, Mobile, but they forget the Perry counties of the world, and they don't invest. They haven't invested in education in those counties. They haven't invested in the workforce development in those counties. And they haven't invested, importantly, they have not invested in small businesses in those counties. We've had a state government that loves to give out tax incentives to the big companies to come in, because they're real proud of all these companies coming in. And I'm fine with that. I mean, I like to do that. But I want to give some of these incentives to the small businesses, like in Perry County, where folks can operate and open and operate a business right there in their hometown, because they'll be more apt to stay there in that hometown and employ people in that hometown. So I think we can do a lot like that, but we've got to do something to lift wages across the board, and we've got to get healthy. That is one thing, and I'm not talking about the stuff we see coming out of the HHS secretary. I'm talking about basic health care in these rural areas where our rural hospitals are closing. We didn't expand Medicaid. We need to do that. We need to keep these rural hospitals open and maybe kind of rethink how healthcare is being delivered in those rural hospitals. we're not going to forget those counties. I think more investment in those counties in both education and workforce development and incentives for small businesses are key.
Absolutely. All right. Doug Jones, we appreciate it. We'll be covering this. When is the primary?
Primary is May the 19th. I'm not taking any primary for granted. I want to make sure people understand that. We're not taking any of that for granted. We're going to be talking about these issues. We're going to be going to folks. We're going to be listening. We're going to do a lot of listening tour type things. And if anybody's out there that has questions or can help us, go to DougJones.com, and there you got them all right now. That's the new campaign sites that we've got there. So we'd love to have you join us if you're in Alabama, and if not, just send us some money.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland. Take care.